It says he represents the Tanaka clan. You don't look like Tanaka.
Shidoshi Tanaka, trend.
What's the whole up?
He says Senzo Tanaka is his Shidoshi.
What's the difference if Bruce Springsteen is a Shidoshi?
Mr. Han, suddenly I like to leave your island. It is not possible. Bullshit, Mr. Handman.
I want you to exit this guy off the premises, and I want you to exit him off his feet and use his head to open the fucking door.
Don't ever do nothing like this again. Come back up here.
You don't have to worry about that, Sheriff.
I'd kind of like to see this town die peaceful.
Fucking honey, Joker. You know, we know you was a punk then, but you'll be in a punk now. Yeah, detective, come on. Now you couldn't find a fucking Jew in Rockaway.
How does one become a janitor?
Welcome, everybody. This is Phil Moore, a.k.a. Jim Fix, and I'm bringing you the first installment of Radio Karate. This is a side project that we did when we were at the old forum, and we'd like to continue it here in the incarnation we left it at. With me today is Derek, a.k.a. Vance, and Wayne. Say hi, guys.
Hi.
Hello, everybody.
I'm just using my real name here.
We got in touch with Rakdar, and he unfortunately is away, so he can't make it to this one, but he will be on the next one, I hope. And Kerry unfortunately can't make it to this. He's not feeling too great, so we're going to give them a shout-out real quick. And we're also saying hi to Movie Steve, who's a guy. Tell about him, Wayne, just a little bit for everybody.
Wow, now I think of what movie it was. I went to see Captain Marvel, and the guy that just happened to be sitting next to me, like, hated it as much as me, and we just started talking after the movie, and then it turns out that the next time I went to the movies, I always get the same seat, F7, that's my seat, and he always gets the seat F8, that's the one next to it, and then the next time I went to the movies, the same guy was sitting next to me. I'm like, oh, wow, so after a while, we ended up just going to meet up to see movies and talking about him after. So that's how I ended up meeting him, because we both hated Captain Marvel so much that after it was over, the two of us just started bitching to each other about how bad it was. We didn't even know each other at that point. And but yeah, so I call him Movie Steve, and we go to see a lot of movies. Pretty much everything that comes out, we wait till Sunday night and go to see it the week it comes out. Mm-hmm. And talk about what we think of the movie. So I went to see a bunch of stuff with them. Went to see Midway, and then we went Ford versus Ferrari. Everything right down the line recently. Mm-hmm. And then we went to Birds of Prey last Sunday.
And so, and I have to preface this by saying that I was really not upset, I should say, disturbed that I had to see I saw this film specifically for the podcast because I had no intentions of going to see it. And then the following day or a couple days later, I went to see Little Women with my little woman. And so I had to watch Rambo marathons just to wash the stank off me. And it was just too much. It was just too much. Yeah, a little bit. Even though, I mean, okay. So we should go as we normally do and go round table, number from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being a complete piece of shit. Derek, what score do you give this film?
I give it about a 6.
Interesting. Wayne?
Okay, now when we talked last, I was going to give it a 5. But you know what? After thinking about it for a week, I kind of like it a little bit more than I did then. Now thinking about it, so I'm going to bring it up to a 6 also.
Okay, and I'm not qualifying this. I if I'm charitable, I'll give it a 6 as well. We might have the first time ever a unanimous vote.
Yeah.
But in my heart, I know it's really actually like 5, between 5 and 6. And we don't do half numbers on this show, so I'll just keep it as 6 because I don't think it was as bad as some of the critics are making it out to be. Right. And on the other hand, it's nowhere near as good as some of those critics are saying. So the other thing was when I heard that this was going to be the title, this long, it reminded me of the Hudsucker Proxy and how no one knew what the fuck that meant, and how the Shawshank Redemption, when it was released, a lot of moviegoers didn't go to see because they didn't know what the fuck it was about. And unless you were a Stephen King buff, then you would know. But there was a TV show in the early 2000s with a couple. Dina Meyer was one I remember. She promoted it on Stern. It was called Birds of Prey, and that really was closer to the source material, wasn't it, Derek?
Yeah, I saw this.
It was closer in general, but it also took liberties. Like in the TV show, Black Canary was like a 16-year-old teenager with psychic powers instead of a grown woman karate expert with sonic cry powers. And Huntress, they did they went for the Golden Age comic book Huntress, where she was the daughter of Batman and Catwoman. Right. So they gave her cat powers for some reason, like the Catwoman in the movie. So it stuck to the aesthetic more, but it wasn't like a straight down the line adaptation of the comics.
But it was like the movie Catwoman. That's why she had weird powers. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't actually get to see it. Did you see it also as well, Wayne? That show?
Yeah, actually, I own the box set. I've just bought the other
so do I.
box set. Yeah.
You fucking dorks. Oh, I can't believe that. Okay, well, okay. I mean, it's entirely, it's all, if it's for sale, it's meant to buy. That's fine. When I went in with the theater, let's go through also the numbers in terms of how many people were in the theater when you went. When I went, it was let's see, I saw it IMAX 2D, and it was around, I think, a 1 p.m. show on a Sunday, and I was expecting a huge, turnout. Even just right after lunch, loads of people go to see a film, and it was maybe 350 seats. There couldn't have been more than 35 people in the theater, and this was the day it was released.
Wow.
Yeah. What about you guys?
They were really hyping it up over in Taiwan. There was one of the malls that we were at had a huge, the whole, probably about a four-story sign for it. And it was a big deal. I got a picture of me in the subway with one of the really big billboards for it over there. But when I went at 10 o'clock at night on Sunday, which is just usually pretty dead. So there was maybe six of us in the theater. So we could kind of sit there and wise ass a little bit without disturbing people, which I think made it better. So.
Yeah.
I went on the Thursday before it opened at around 7 o'clock, and half of the theater was full. But I thought that things weren't going to go well for it because I went at a Thursday at 7 o'clock to see Suicide Squad, and that was sold out. So I was the Harley Quinn effect isn't carrying over to this movie.
I liked it better than Suicide Squad.
Never having seen Suicide Squad, still to this day, I toyed with watching it just to get, just to have the connect, to put any two and two together if I needed for the purposes of continuity, and I decided against it because after Gemini Man earlier in the year, or later last year, I said, fuck Will Smith, I cannot put up with him for much longer.
Yeah, it wasn't necessary to see Suicide Squad before this anyway.
No.
Nah.
So let's start with I had a couple notes here. Believe it or not, sometimes we do take some notes for these podcasts and find out what's going on. Let's start with the numbers. First of all, it supposedly had a budget of 84 million, almost 85 million, which does not include marketing as always. But it's first of all, this budget seems incredibly small for a character that spawned, basically, it looked like as if they had found their Deadpool. The DC had decided they're going to really market the shit out of us, and yet the initial problem right off the bat is the name of the film.
Yeah, that was a bad idea.
You'd think, I'm trying to think of it as instead of calling The Godfather 2, you just say, Mafia. A look inside the life of an Italian from Corleone named Michael. It's convoluted. It's sort of like if you just called it Harley Quinn, blah 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 blah, emancipation, whatever. That's fine. Or Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey.
Should have been.
It should have been Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey. That would have been simple.
It should have been just. It should have been. No, it should have just been Harley Quinn breaks out or something, and just like no Birds of Prey, just Harley Quinn, and and no Cassandra Cain, which was ridiculous. That she was like a fat little Korean girl. Since
that was my biggest problem with the movie.
no, zero sex appeal, right?
Yeah. Well, that's a. That was
not
that was
that
a
character,
big problem,
though.
but. No. That like that. I love that Batgirl. I love that whole series with Cassandra Cain, with Batman mentoring her, and that whole thing. I like the art, everything about it. But I think the bigger problem was even bigger than that, because they never really issued her as Batgirl or anything in this, but was Huntress. That was I don't know who that person was. Looks like they just picked some broad out of the gutter and said, "Hey, you want to dress up as Huntress?" Not even dress up as Huntress.
This is, and I know this is going to get us maybe in some kind of trouble, but but I don't give a fuck. There was I needed some fucking titty in this film. I mean, I'm a guy. I see these films. There had to be some kind of sex appeal. Look what they did with Wonder Woman. They didn't hire Lena Dunham to play fucking Wonder Woman. Why not? Well, because let's be honest. You don't go to the theater to go see the schlub down the street. You go to watch, a comic book type character. And look at all these broads. Look at the Huntress just throw a rock at a Batman comic with the Huntress. Yeah. And she's like Catwoman, hot chicks, basically. And I look at the way they marketed, let's say, the original Drew Barrymore, Lucy Liu, Charlie's Angels. That first, they tried to sell it as sexy and whatever, liberating for women and whatnot. And it worked. It did work. Even the sequel, which what most people said was complete shit, not that I cared about either of those films, was really, it did very well. They went top heavy with the names. And then they remake it and they tone down all of that. And it bombs. They hire a noted lesbian, an out lesbian, to be one of the leads, and it bombs. Incredibly bad. Well, and I don't know who's making these decisions.
The other two Charlie's Angels had a sense of humor about them. That's why they worked.
Yeah.
And, but this, like me and Movie Steve, both of us, when we sit in the lounge after we saw the movie and we're talking about it, and both of us said exactly what you said, about, there's one side view of the Huntress, and I'm like, who's that dude? It's just really, really bad.
It's odd because Mary Elizabeth Winstead isn't an attractive woman who's played attractive women in other movies. Mm-hmm. But it's like she worked out really, really hard for this movie, and she just got her body changed.
Yeah, she went down to... Yeah.
And it didn't help that whoever was in charge of costuming for this movie might have been the most horrible pick to be dressing women that I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because Black Canary ran around in tight pants and a bra for the majority of this, but it was the least sexy tight pants and a bra I've ever seen in my entire life. So, Harley Quinn was in hot pants the whole time and cut-off jeans, but they were unsexy cut-off jeans.
Yeah, they're kind of dumpy looking.
Do you guys think this was a conscious decision to tone down the sexy?
I don't even think it was that, because they showed a lot of skin, but it was all in clothes that it's like they were trying to go for this funky vibe. Because just in the way that Gotham City that they were showing us looked, there was a certain grittiness to it and everything.
Yeah. And
they were going for this throwback early 80s type vibe or something to the way everybody looked. And it was just awful. They dressed these poor women terribly.
Okay, well, so this is a question. Is this meant to be the Suicide Squad sequel that wasn't?
I don't know what to make of it.
I think there was always the plan to spin off Harley Quinn into her own thing, and then Margot Robbie wanted to do a film because she started reading all the comics and she got into the whole Birds of Prey thing. So she wanted to do a Harley Quinn and her gal pals type of movie, and it's like somebody should have slipped a couple of Gotham City sirens into her stack of comics when she was doing her research.
Fuck yeah.
Because a movie about Harley Quinn meeting Poison Ivy and teaming up with Catwoman to do pretty much the same thing they did in this would have probably narratively worked a little better, because them trying to just weave her into the things with the Black Canary and trying to weave Black Canary into being this torch singer and all that stuff just felt kind of clunky.
Well, doesn't it also the fact that Black Canary is actually black? I mean, they decided to go. Not that I care, but I mean, in this situation, it really doesn't matter. But at the same time,
they said it was her daughter, like that she was the daughter of. So I take it that she's the daughter of the old Black Canary that the one we're used to.
I suppose, and actually, she was actually my favorite part of the whole film. Actually, I think she did a really good job, as good as she could. I don't think, but at the same time, you're blurring the line between what is she? Is she a superhero, or does she have a power? You don't find out really until, like, you get a hint with the martini glass, and she starts, it shatters whatever. Yeah. But you don't know. Is that just some bullshit effect that they're doing to show, this is how good she sings, blah, blah, blah. I mean, if you know the comic books, that makes perfect sense. That's the tell. I wouldn't have added that scene. I would have said, fuck it, let's find out the way normally the people find out that these people are superheroes or not.
Well, they also dropped in that section where she and Renee Montoya met in her apartment building. Where Montoya was telling her she remembers her mom and like hinted around at her having the powers and all that stuff. And I didn't mind the changing the race of Black Canary, because honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't matter if Black Canary is white, black, Hispanic, Asian, or whatever. Nothing about her origin changes. Her mom was a hero, married a florist, had a daughter, screams a lot. There you go.
And also. But the sort of uniform, I guess, because you don't want to give it away that she's Black Canary, you decide, okay, she's going to have a different type of look completely in terms of wardrobe. But a lot of people that bothers them. It does about comic books. They do want to have some sort of continuity. Now, the other thing was, in this particular case, Cassandra Cain. From what I recall, she's Ra's al Ghul's bodyguard or assassin bodyguard /
Well, she was Lady Shiva's
the daughter of an assassin who was trained by Lady Shiva was her mom, right?
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I didn't know this in the continuity, but as far as I know, she really was silent, wasn't she?
Yeah, she had a vocal issue where she doesn't speak, and she's like
for
the second. She's like officially the second or third best fighter in the DC Comics universe. Yeah. And it's like the character has tons of potential, from the disability to the badass fighter to the assassin dad who wants her to be an assassin too. It's like a whole lot of stuff that they could have used for that character, bringing it to the big screen instead of just making her some mouthy little street urchin. Which annoyed me.
But why did they even use the name? That's got nothing to do. Like, she's never going to be Batgirl. She's just some dumpy girl that was out on the street.
This is what irks me the most about it. Is like, I usually don't care when they change characters from the comic to the movie, because I still have my comic books. There was a character from Birds of Prey named Sin, a little girl who became like a ward to Black Canary, who they could have used. She was adapted into the Arrow TV show as a mouthy street urchin who stole shit a lot. You basically had that character ready to go.
Right.
And instead let's just take a character with a lot of potential and boil her down to a useless throwaway character is basically what this one was.
Yeah.
Well, I'm reading through the trivia. According to some of the IMDb trivia, Lady Shiva was there was an intention of putting her in this, first of all. But I read this one segment I'm not sure where it came from, but this is the quote. Harley Quinn won't be seen as an object of desire, which is very much on purpose. That's what happens when you have a female producer, director, writer, says Birds of Prey costume designer Erin Benak. Robbie added, it's definitely less male gazy. Robbie had discussed how uncomfortable her outfits were for Suicide Squad, so that has all been altered for this film. So that, so right there, she's admitting, okay, this was completely by design. They wanted to downplay any kind of sex appeal and make it more about the characters, which is fine. I really don't have any problems. This was the other thing.
Harley Quinn's a bimbo.
Yeah. I mean, you can't take that many liberties a certain way. And the other thing is, let's be honest, sex sells. So if you added that, that's when you're getting more of the ladies and the men in the theaters. It's all about putting asses in seats. Both ladies Shiva and Kitana were rumored to be in the film. Karen Fukuhara would have reprised her role as Kitana from Suicide Squad. That never happened. Yeah.
How the hell were they going to fit those two characters into this already overstuffed movie where Huntress and Black Canary got the short shrift in terms of character development because there wasn't enough room or time for it?
I would have rather seen a movie with Lady Shiva and Kitana and fuck the rest of the Birds of Prey. Just have them fighting over the little girl, you know, and have the little girl like the real Batgirl, you know.
They could have done a tiny little tweak to the Huntress part of it instead of using Helena Bertinelli and the mob part, and have her out of the movie, replace her with Kitana, make it something to do with the people who murdered Katana's husband, like the Yakuza operating out of Japan and I'm out of Gotham City. Slot her in and boom, Bob's your uncle. You got, at least you have a character that people are sort of familiar with from Suicide Squad that doesn't become this cipher like Huntress was, because she barely spoke through the entire movie. Mm-hmm. And then there was a good 30 minutes, 40 minutes where I don't think she was on screen at all. She stopped killing everyone and just disappeared.
Yeah.
Well, she's supposed to be like a rich girl, but then she looks like she's like washed out, like she's been sleeping out in the river or something. Her hair was ratty. You know, for somebody that has a lot of money, she dressed like shit. You know, it just and the other thing too is like, okay, so this whole movie they're chasing down this diamond, and then it's supposed to have some kind of code that to the Bertinelli fortune or something, but the Huntress doesn't even know that.
Well, she was in it. They took her post-crisis on Infinite Earth's origin, where they had to do away with the whole Batman, Catwoman, Earth 2 thing.
Yeah, but
they took that origin for her, and that was in the comics. That's basically what she did. She came back to Gotham and just started
I know that.
murdering everybody.
But I'm saying in the movie, wasn't there like some kind of code etched onto the diamond that was supposed to unlock like more riches for her family or some shit like that?
But I don't think
they never did anything.
She knew anything about that. Well, Harley Quinn stole the money.
Yeah, but who?
Or no,
cares?
she gave it to Montoya, and that's what they were using to run the Birds of Prey at the end.
Yeah, but still, it's like she never knew that diamond had anything to do with their family. So it was kind of really I mean, if they said that she knew that the diamond that was her motivation for getting the diamond, but it didn't even seem like she really cared about it.
Yeah, well, I guess she's so consumed with revenge that fuck the money, right?
Yeah.
But by then, it was just, her character was kind of a mess. Like, they created her as this vengeance-seeking, like, overly aggressive murder machine who seemed to have thought that she killed everybody she needed to kill, and then she just decided, I'll hang out with you ladies.
Well,
I have nothing else to do with my time. So
I think that's not a bad point to make. The fact is now, going back to the grosses, apparently this has made 145 million worldwide. Now it needs to make at least, it says 84 million. I'm sure it needs at least another 100 million to break back to break even, and I'm sure it will. There's enough. It didn't really drop that much this week, relatively. The first weekend, I think it was something like 33 million, and the second weekend,
a 40-something% drop, which is considered pretty good.
Yes, so I think it'll stumble across whatever line they need to make the movie break even, at least. But that's not what the companies want. They want a huge monster hit.
There's really nothing else out there right now either.
This is part of an article on Screen Rant that talks about February is just not a great month for movie releases. It says
Sonic the Hedgehog for some reason is making a lot of money, and I don't understand what's wrong with people.
Me neither. Me neither.
Cut it out. Stop watching nonsense.
Let's see. There have been some recent exceptions to this rule about the dumping ground, February being the dumping ground, which is funny because Private Parts was released in February as well. Most notably, the billion-dollar success of Marvel's Black Panther, but there are exceptions for a reason. Deadpool is another one. One that Birds of Prey was frequently compared to, but that film had a really savvy marketing strategy, and it wasn't attached to a franchise that some potential viewers are still tentative to revisit. That's a very big point. I mean, we talked about. What film was it that we reviewed? Oh, it was two films we reviewed before at the old forum, which was Dark Phoenix, that was basically done to finish contractual obligations, and then the Terminator Dark Fate, which both had to sort of follow shitty films. So how is this going to benefit Harley Quinn going forward?
I think the Harley Quinn character, the other thing, like, the name was the first misstep of this whole production.
Big time.
Pushing for a R rating was also not a good idea. But you can take out a little bit, a couple of curse words, and maybe don't show as much blood. You could have got this to a PG-13 and then had all those little girls that love Harley Quinn lined up to see this movie. As it stood, so. Those kids weren't getting in, and I doubt their parents were taking them to go see this fucking movie on their free
really
time.
Go by that? Do they go by that now that you can order tickets online? Do they even restrict it? Like, I don't.
Still got to scan that thing in front of a ticket taker. I saw little kids getting turned away from R-rated. What was it? It was an R-rated movie over the summer. Where I
haven't seen that. I haven't seen that can't even remember.
Yeah, they told them to get their parents if they wanted to see the movie. I forget.
Wow, I didn't know they'd even bothered anymore.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So again, with the casting was I think all over the place. I love what's her name, the Rosie Perez in general. I know a lot of people are annoyed by her, but I didn't see why they couldn't have gone with someone else for her character.
I actually liked her as Renee Montoya. The Renee Montoya they were going for, she was the perfect pick for her.
Really? Did you buy her running around as? Did you buy her running around as a cop? Being able to beat anybody up.
She was kind of
the beating people up part was kind of ridiculous. I just looked at her; she fit the whole "I'm Cagney and Lacey with a drinking problem" kind of thing. Yeah, that's the mold that I saw. And I didn't see her as being able to beat anyone up.
Right.
Yeah, but she didn't bother me so much.
The other thing was, these are all with even Harley Quinn. The Harley Quinn through Suicide Squad and the sort of reception she gets from an otherwise shitty movie. The rest of the characters are just not well known enough, and so that marketing was going to be a tough sell no matter what. Deadpool, the second one, played off the first, like it was all done. Basically, after the success of the first one, Deadpool 2 was a no-brainer. There wasn't going to be much of a problem marketing that. And the similarities to Deadpool, it's still, for a lot of people, they're going, the way they, Kathy Yan decided to do this particular film, it does seem a little rip-off-ish, regardless of the source material.
Don't actually see how. It's just because it's R-rated doesn't make it a rip of Deadpool.
No. I just mean the sort of non-linear. Oh, okay. Let me go back to this. And then the storytelling, the storytelling fashion, and the way that she's also very scatterbrained in the film. She's all over the place, right? Yeah. So that's where now the original character in comics, that's a different story. But the way they filmed it, it seems that there could be a contingent of fans going, well, this is derivative. They're just again following Marvel, and they should go.
Well, it was. I mean, even with the little cartoons and the crayon writing and stuff like that, it's very Deadpool. Yeah, exactly. The fonts and everything. Yeah,
right.
Now I'm trying to think because. Honestly, I think Harley Quinn was doing that in the comics before they made Deadpool into the goofy fourth wall breaking character. Because if you think back, Deadpool was created by Rob Liefeld to be basically just a ripoff of Deathstroke Terminator with Wolverine's healing factor. There was none of the goofy stuff that the character is known for now.
Right.
And the character before. It just so happened Deadpool made it to movie theaters first.
Yes.
But Harley Quinn's nonsense was all part of the character.
For the most part, Harley Quinn was only in
to begin with.
She was only in like Batman Adventures, like the cartoon, the cartoony comic for the TV show. That's what she premiered in, and then eventually they brought her into the regular comics. But I think there was like a Joker Valentine's special that it was kind of the first Harley Quinn thing that was outside of the Batman Adventures, Batman Animated, or whatever it was called. I think it was called Batman Adventures. I think that they started making her more like the DC Deadpool, like after Deadpool.
Well, yeah, that's my contention. I mean, it does seem as though it's bleeding a little into this, and I don't know that it's necessary. I think if they were going to go, first of all, if they were going to go R, I would have went hard fucking R. I would have had all kinds of nudity, all kinds of violence, and made it hyper violent. Like, look at Joker. Joker did $1 billion. Over $1 billion, and won the first Oscar for an acting role, I think, in any of these. I mean, let's keep the Heath Ledger thing aside. It seems as though this should have been easier to market. This should have been a no sell, there should have been no selling element to this.
I still always go back to the Heath Ledger thing. If he didn't die, it wouldn't have been as much hype.
I agree.
The R rating for this was unnecessary with the movie that they wanted to make, because an R-rated Harley Quinn, I don't know if you guys have watched it, but on the DC Universe, there's a Harley Quinn cartoon that is exactly what you said it should have been. It's completely over the top. It's bloody as hell, but it's hilarious. Yeah. And if they had done a hard R-rated, extra violent, super crazily funny type of
that's
movie,
what I wanted.
Yeah.
Then the R rating would have been like something that was worth even going for. What they put on screen, though, could have just been PG-13, even just straight up PG. There was nothing about it that made it an R-rated movie, except they said fuck 27 times instead of 13 or something like that. Because
well, yeah. Believe it or not, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles has an R rating just from that rant, that Steve Martin rant. That's the only reason it got it in mid 80s. But that will give you the hard R, the R regardless. But it's not really. I think language at this point shouldn't be enough. But that I agree. They should have went for the gusto, and I think they were trying to hedge their bets. But why hedge your bets? Why not just go for the PG-13?
Yeah. At the beginning of the movie, when it started off like really silly with her trying to protect her sandwich, which actually the sandwich I was sitting there in the theater, me and Movie Steve were like, man, I want one of those right now. And we were saying like that after the thing, it was like, well, that sandwich was like the best part of the movie. But anyways, we if that whole premise was just so silly, I said, okay, if this movie's going to be like this, I'm going to like it. But then it kind of hit a speed bump when they started introducing the Birds of Prey. So if they just kept a silly Harley Quinn movie with her trying to do something nice and fucking up the whole thing right through, then that would have been a good movie,
I think also there's an issue with the fact that Joker is addressed throughout the whole film, and yet you don't ever see him. And that when you're talking, you're talking about a character so much, but he's just not there, and now you got to put up with, okay, we're going to use Ewan McGregor's shit Sionis character, the Black Mask, which by the way, he was awful. I don't know if you guys.
He was like the gay Black Mask. It took me a few minutes to realize that was Ewan McGregor, because he was so fucked up. Yeah, it was like so over the They never came out and said he was gay, but there was like one line she said, "Well, you don't like me because I have a vagina," so that gives it to you right there that he's a gay guy, But in Black, I was like, no, this isn't the Black Mask from the comics, But
also, don't you think it was a little too woke in the sense of, okay, so Montoya's ex-partner is an incompetent man, older man, and he gets the credit for her things. Okay, so Harley Quinn's father is an absentee father. He just fucking threw his child away, so he's an asshole too. Black Mask, okay, of course he has to be an asshole, and his henchman Zaz, which is really awful way to introduce that character.
Oh, I know.
In Batman is one of the best villains ever. and so much better than Black Mask. Yet you just make him a shitty version of I don't know, like just some like a throwaway Bond villain, basically one of the ones Bond wipes out right away.
An evil art dealer or something. I don't know what he was, a club bouncer. So I don't know what he was supposed to be.
You're right. He does look like a Santorini nightclub bouncer that just got given a job.
Yeah, there's been 2 live-action depictions of Victor Zsasz, and they both were terrible. Because in the Gotham TV show, he was just the hired hitman for the Penguin, and in this, he's just the muscle for Black Mask. I'm like, the dude is a serial killer who etches in a marking for every person he's murdered. He doesn't shoot people. He uses a knife. He's a complete and total psychopath. Pick someone else to be the henchman for the bad guy instead of this awesome serial killer who you could use in a Batman movie down the line. There's like a billion. Pick Calendar Man, for fuck's sake.
just have him.
Signal Man.
Big
Man. Pick any of these loser-ass characters.
Remember in the Tim Burton Batman, Joker just had Bob the Thug or whatever, Bob the Goon. That was it. He's like Bob the Goon and nobody. That's all this guy needed to be is the kind of fruity bouncer or whatever. I don't know.
Okay, I didn't mind McGregor's Black Mask because honestly, Black Mask isn't like the Batman villain that I really give half a fuck about in the grand scheme of things. He played it over the top, which I felt was the way to play the bad guy in this specific movie.
Okay.
And
the movie was pretty cartoony, so it wasn't. Plus, like I said, it took me a minute to realize it was Ewan McGregor because he was so fruity.
He's not exactly a pillar of masculinity in most films, but
no, but this was like. I was like, whoa! Then it clicked in. I was like, what the fuck,
I just felt he was. I just felt he was walking through it. I just didn't get a sense that he gave a flying fuck one way or the other. And to me, that when an actor taps out, like Meryl Streep's been doing that for many films now.
Oh yeah.
And when I see her playing Meryl Streep, I just like fuck off, Jack Nicholson Jr. It bothers me. It's just like Robert Downey Jr. Isn't he always playing the same Tony Stark in every fucking movie he's in now? So
he's got that Al Pacino syndrome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tony Doolittle.
Yeah. So here's the thing. We've each given it a charitable 6, and we're doing nothing but bashing it. What was good about the movie?
I liked it. There were things I liked. I mean, I thought it was funny. There was enough funny shit in it to keep me. And then just the quirkiness of it, I liked. Like I said, though, if you take the Birds of Prey out of the whole thing and Cassandra Cain, I actually liked okay, now here's one other thing I wanted to bring up, though, as far as bashing. So Harley Quinn steals like a big tanker truck and drives it in and blows up Axis Chemical.
Right.
Where's Batman? Is he out in space with the Justice League? Like nobody shows up, like except for the police.
Yeah, them never addressing where Batman was while all this was going on was also
that was an
issue.
Like he was in. At least he showed up in the Suicide Squad movie. They showed him. But like the other thing too is I'm glad they only showed the Joker from the back because I hate that Jared Leto joke. I hate him.
I thought for sure they'd just throw him in there just to like
I didn't want to see him at all.
No, but I'm saying you're not going to get Joaquin Phoenix, which really I think the reason why they didn't was number one, they did not want to confuse anybody and say, well, look, he's going in this particular continuity, it's Jared Leto or Leto, whatever. And then in this other Todd Phillips continuity, it's someone else who won an Oscar and fucking saved our franchise basically. And it's a standalone film. I think they tried to do a little too much with this film, and the what's her name? God, what's the missus? Let me get her name. The one who played Black Canary. What's her name?
Journey Smollett.
Bell. Yeah. I thought she was good. I thought she was probably the most expressive of all the actresses. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, I think she's actually a good actress, but just miscast in this. And I would have loved a standalone film with Lady Shiva.
Yeah.
Like, only one of the coolest villains ever in the Batman universe, but you're not going to put her in. Poison Ivy, okay, yes, Uma Thurman in the Batman and Robin.
God. Yeah.
Okay, sure, but what about Clayface? I mean, we don't have to have female villains, but there's so many awesome villains you could use in that, even if they are campy. I mean, fuck it. Just don't camp and make them darker. That's fine.
I think they just could have saved so much money not having Birds of Prey in it. Just make a silly Harley Quinn movie.
Yeah.
I don't know who sits around these tables and argues this stuff. It's like let's crowbar in as many superheroes as we can in one movie. And
that was a Margot Robbie decision.
Yes, it's her production company.
Yeah, WB wanted a Harley Quinn movie.
Yep.
She then decided she wanted to add the rest of it into the mix instead of just going with a Harley Quinn movie. But
WB, this is a case where WB was right. They were right that time.
I have some positives. Like, I liked all the actors in their roles. Like you, Fillmore, I thought that Journey Smollett was the best new character in there. Her Black Canary was pretty good, even though she wasn't given enough time to actually build the character that she was playing. I thought the fight choreography was awesome. Like, they got
it was good.
Who did John Wick. And
yes, that's exactly that was good. Yeah,
like the fight choreography was top notch.
Yeah,
I personally like Ewan McGregor's Black Mask with all the over the top fancy pants nonsense he was up to, and I appreciated, like, even win, lose or draw, if it doesn't make like two more cents, I appreciated Warner Brothers saying, Kathy Yan, here's this movie, do your vision. She wanted this Birds of Prey. She wanted it to be R-rated. The fact that they didn't swoop in like they did with Batman versus Superman and Suicide Squad and the Justice League and fuck things up even worse than how some people may think they were fucked up already, I appreciate. If they continue, I hope that this movie not performing the way that they wanted it to doesn't mean they're going to go back to micromanaging everything, because I want these directors and writers and whatnot to actually put their vision on the screens and just let the chips fall where they may. Well, but don't do dumb shit like have the people who cut your trailer then go in and edit your fucking movie like they did for Suicide Squad, because they gutted that film and turned it into something that David Ayer says that he didn't even really film it. So just stop doing that type of shit.
Well, do you guys get the sense that there's definitely more more violence or more something in the can that if there's another cut, which they could very well release on DVD or whatever, or streaming, that there is something in there? Because it seemed like it wasn't that long, but it seemed like there was probably shitloads on the cutting room floor.
Oh yeah,
because they made a pretty brisk movie.
The thing with me that's ironic, okay, now, after Suicide Squad, I never watched it until it came out on video because I was so fed up with Harley Quinn from going to Comic-Con in Boston that year, and everybody was Harley Quinn. I was so sick of Harley Quinn that me and my girlfriend didn't go to see it because, well, first thing, she hates Harley Quinn because her niece watches the superhero girls and she hates the New York accent. And she's like, does she talk that way in the movie? I'm like, yeah, she does. And she's like, oh, I don't want any part of it. So anyways, she didn't want to see it. So I went to see this movie because I wanted to see a Birds of Prey movie, and then walked out of the theater saying, I wish I saw a Harley Quinn movie. Which was, that was the thing that got me there, was because it was Birds of Prey. I said, well, there'll probably be a limited amount of Harley Quinn. And then after, I was actually ended up liking the Harley Quinn stuff and not giving a shit about the Birds of Prey stuff. So that's why I liked them. I ended up liking the movie because I went into it thinking it was like a roll of the dice whether it was going to be good or not. So that's why I gave it a 6, because in the end I ended up liking it, and the further away from it and thinking about it, there was enough stuff in there for me to make it up to a 6.
See, I didn't think my 6 was being charitable. I actually outright liked the movie.
So you think it was a legitimate 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, okay. After I saw it, and when I talked to Fillmore earlier in the week, I said that's about a 5. But then after thinking about it to the point where I wouldn't mind seeing it again. I won't, when it comes out, I'll probably end up getting it digitally or something, and watching it again, because it wasn't that bad. I liked it better than Suicide Squad.
Some parts I found it got funnier near the end than the beginning. Actually, I'm not sure if you guys like. I found the sort of. I guess it's you know what, I'm just a too jaded old fuck and I can't be trusted to watch these films with a fresh eye anymore because I've just seen too many of them.
I thought the beginning was really funny. The thing that was funny at the end was her being duct taped to a toilet. I thought that was pretty funny.
Well,
when they rounded her up and with feet giving her all the prune juice.
Some of the funnier stuff was sort of the asides, like the you need a hairnet here, a hairband, here you go. All the girl stuff that girls would talk about that I thought was kind of funny. Maybe a little too cutesy for some people, but I thought that was funnier and faster, a little more quick-witted, but and seemed more organic, I suppose. And that's where you kind of saw a little bit of chemistry. I felt it took a little too long to get to. Okay, let's put them all together. But the fight choreography, I will agree, was actually very good, which could have gone really shitty. And anytime you can make Rosie Perez look like a badass, okay, wonderful.
No, the fight at the end was good to the point. It was like you said, it was like a John Wick. But then there was like guy after guy that was going after him. It got out of hand like the Crazy 88s and Kill Bill. That's how funny it got,
Yeah, and there were some continuity errors in that fight scene, which it was all over the place, but yeah. Again, when you spend that much money on a film, make sure the editing department has a good bunch of eyes, a good bunch of sets of eyes to really notice these things and put them together properly. So
nobody showed up with a gun either.
Yeah, thank God. But the other thing over here definitely was I know that coronavirus was scaring people, so a lot of people were not going to theaters at all. And
I was reading about that a lot of studios aren't looking to China to be like a boost to their movies box office because the coronavirus has everybody afraid to actually start going to the movies.
That's
they're like, for the near future, people aren't factoring that into their margins.
That's why I didn't see it in Taiwan. We usually take my girlfriend's niece to see all the Star Wars movies, and we couldn't take it to that. We were going to go take her to see Frozen 2. We couldn't go to that because we didn't dare go to a movie theater. By the time I left Taiwan, I was like, pretty much everybody was wearing a mask unless you were a moron. And it was really, we got to the point where we were just taking food back to the hotel and staying in the hotel to eat because that's how it was there, So I got out just in time.
Let's see what I got here. It says, just reading up an article here, Birds of Prey perfectly set up the relationship between Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy, but it won't be comic book accurate. I love the character Poison Ivy. I loved her depiction in just about everything, especially in, she was in Black Orchid, that Dave McKean, Neil Gaiman, mini series. And she was in Arkham Asylum, and I mean, the way they portrayed Poison Ivy in Batman was, I loved it. I loved her character, and it would have been great in this as some kind of.
As long as they don't try to do another Batman and Robin, Uma Thurman, that was ridiculous.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't go campy with Poison Ivy. I would actually go. Definitely would have used it like sexy but dangerous. Yeah. Harder R. And I think it would have been a fucking smash, but they make the decision they want to. But do you guys think that this is the real conundrum? Based on the performance, which it's still in theaters, it's still going to make money going forward. Do you think they're going to put another one together? Do you think this is going to be a one and done?
No, I think there'll be another one because there's still a demand because it's a huge comic.
Yeah,
the girls just love her.
Yeah.
I think with the way they set up the ending of it, because I think they're gonna always make another Harley Quinn movie just because that character is so popular. But for the Birds of Prey part of it, like they set it up that they're now an independent operating team. I could see them handing that property to a different director and writer and making something more that sticks to the comic. Than
I don't see that going anywhere.
I don't see them just dumping it. I don't see them just dumping it. I
think that they'll salvage Harley Quinn out of this and give it one more go. But I don't see if this doesn't at least break even. That's it for the Birds of Prey.
I think so too. I think so too. Harley Quinn as a franchise has value. I don't know that the Birds of Prey does. Not with the current cast going forward. Unless, like I said, unless they go a little harder, and unless Mary Elizabeth Winstead starts eating some Philly cheesesteaks. I mean, it's just not. I hated that aspect of it, but I really was. Again, I think I'm a little too jaded. But going forward, it's ironic. June 5th. Is the next Wonder Woman film, which I know Wayne was just loving that trailer with all the New Order music in it. But
I love everything
film,
about that.
You know that film's just going to make a fucking $1 billion easy.
And you know it's probably going to be good. It's probably going to be as good as the last one. And the other thing, too, I'm glad they're not showing Cheetah.
Yeah.
I want that to be a big surprise.
Somebody found some cover art for... It's not for the movie. It's for something else that they're doing, like a tie-in that showed what the cheetah makeup's supposed to look like. It's only like a from the neck up shot, and it's not a photo. It's a drawing, basically a photorealistic drawing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a mix of the cheetah when she just used to be the lady with some cat ears on, but then she's sort of kind of also the animalistic version that's in the comics now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a blend of that.
Well, either way, I'm looking forward to the Wonder Woman film just to see how well they can continue. See, because my issue was when they threw her in Justice League, I felt that it was almost like a life preserver for them, and that they were reliant more on her than they would like to admit. Meanwhile, you've got Batman and Superman, and that just isn't enough. That's not top heavy enough. You had to depend on Wonder Woman. And what I liked about the Wonder Woman is that they kept Patty Jenkins on to direct it, who I imagine just because of the success of the first one, they'll be a little hands off with her. As Derek was saying, hopefully Kathy Yen just gets, if she does get another crack at it, she goes a little further, and where we find out hopefully that they didn't, that there was studio involvement, that this was a darker film, and they made it lighter against her wishes. I'd like to know if that was possible. Let's see. What do we got here? Wonder Woman. Okay. Yeah, so this is interesting. This film had 4 release date shifts. This is the Wonder Woman film, 84. The first being December 20th, 2019 to November 8th, 2019 in order to avoid competing against Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. Once it was announced that the 25th James Bond film was to leave its original scheduled November 1st spot, Warner Brothers moved the film's release up a week in order to take an extra week advantage. The 4th, don't they mean 3rd, schedule changed, pushed the film back 7 months to June 5th, 2020 as Warner Brothers realized the success of the first film's June 2nd, 2017 release. So yeah, the summer movie, like Shazam was another February release, and it didn't do as well as I think it should have done, much better.
Yeah, it was a great movie.
Yeah.
I watched it recently again and liked it as much as the first time I saw it.
It holds up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
And Derek, that was another movie where they let the director do what he wanted to do.
Sure. Yeah. So with so it's sort of like, and I'm not going to say it, I don't have high hopes for the new Marvel line with the exception of Shang-Chi and Doctor Strange. Going forward, the MCU does not really interest me one bit.
Yeah, me neither.
They're trying to hype the Eternals, and I'm trying to stay optimistic because you know me, I'm full of optimism. But that is not a property that interests me in the least, and I don't care how much they keep trying to push it like it's supposed to be some dynastic science fiction-y version of fucking Game of Thrones or something. I don't see how. Nothing about it screams that it's going to be anything that could possibly be good.
Yeah, I was never big on them in the comics, never mind a movie, you know.
Well, this is going to be released in November of this year, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just first of all, the cast doesn't have me excited. It looks like it should be a TV show that fails horribly. I don't know anything about this director, Chloe Zhao. Let's see what she's got. Probably, I'm sure, an indie. She's got 2 films under her belt: Songs My Brother Taught Me and The Rider. And then The Eternals is this huge budget. And let's check this out. Hold on. The Eternals. What's the budget? Filming.
It's got to be a lot. It's got a cast of thousands in it, just about.
I can't tell.
I wonder if they're going to keep. I wonder if they'll keep it like the Kirby kind of design that you saw in Thor Ragnarok. You know, like if they keep it that, it might be interesting. That's what I liked about that movie.
The set pictures of the costumes didn't look like they were sticking with the Kirby kind of over the top stuff.
Yeah, that kind of stinks because even with the animators, you could have such a ball with fucking Jack Kirby pencils, right? Okay, so that going forward, what's the other one? Let's see what we've got here.
One more thing about the Eternals too is that it's like got Angelina Jolie and Salma Hayek and all these big name people in it. Mm-hmm. But the last thing I read on it was that it's actually going to focus on Cersei and the Black Knight. Mm-hmm. So the movie's going to basically be about Gemma Chan and the guy who played Jon Snow on Game of Thrones. That's going to be the bulk of the film. Their story. So
is that how they're going to crop Black Knight into this new Avengers team without Cap and everybody?
Probably, because if they're focusing on Cersei and Black Knight, then that means that they're going to probably take some of the elements from when they were in the Avengers comic and they were dating one another.
Right.
Well, the other one I forgot completely about this, although I was ironically enough more interested to see this. I don't know why I forgot. Was the Black Widow film, which is coming out this spring?
Yeah, that looks good.
The trailer for that actually looks good.
The trailer looks good. The poster looks fucking hot as shit. And this is how you release these films. I mean, this should have come out before Captain Marvel, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
She should have had her own movie years ago.
Years ago.
This movie, if they do this movie right, it's not going to be another one of these, hard driving the point home that men are stupid movies like Captain Marvel.
Yeah. I think that bothered me more about the Birds of Prey, that it was so blatantly anti-men. And I get it. We all of my favorite sort of female-driven films it was almost incidental. They happened to be women, but they were strong, like Aliens.
Yeah.
Or
right.
I'm trying to think of another one of a similar.
Well, even like Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman came out. Alita came out. Those are two movies that are just fine, and they didn't need to bash men in them at all.
Well, that film Lucy, the Luc Besson film,
right,
with another Scarlett Johansson, that was a huge hit. And isn't that enough? Like, what's with the agenda? Like, do we have to have it crowbarred in so desperately? I don't think so. Not for the film should be more important than any sort of message you're trying to set.
But nothing is worse than Captain Marvel. I watched it again with my girlfriend's niece and hated it just as much as I did the first time. And it just you know what? I hate that. I'm starting to hate that more than Iron Man 3.
Wow.
That's how bad it's getting up there that I think it's worse than Iron Man 3.
I think, though, in the case of this Birds of Prey movie, it fit because you're basically the movie starts and is built around Harley Quinn being dumped by her abusive boyfriend, basically. So the whole men suck thing actually fits in the narrative of what this movie was about, how she's trying to pick herself up from the scrap heap and all that type of stuff. The thing that's so funny is,
but she's going to run right back to Joko as soon as he snaps his fingers.
Yeah, and that's like her thing. But so it didn't bother me as much. It was like, girl power, men are icky and suck and all that type of stuff. Whereas in Captain Marvel, it was basically like they just wanted to say, this woman is the greatest thing in the entire MCU. Everything you saw before this pales in comparison to this specific woman who is the greatest thing.
Nick Fury, the James Bond of the Marvel Universe, is a buffoon. Because she's
But back to Black Widow. They should have had that Black Widow movie come out the same, like a year after Lucy. Because that showed that Scarlett Johansson could make a action movie and people would go see it. But for them to be so, and this is all it was, they were a bunch of cowardly fucks who were sitting around saying, let them make that Wonder Woman movie and let's see if it bombs her. And it's like you guys basically had a machine that no matter what you put out, people go see it. And they have put out some absolute bullshit from the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
As we've seen.
Yeah, and people still racking that shit up to make $1 billion worldwide. And for them to be that big of a coward, it just always annoyed me. And still annoys me to this day.
Her movie should have come out right after Winter Soldier.
Or right after. Yeah, sometime around then, absolutely. Because the market clearly was there.
Because she was already established in Winter Soldier. Right. And that's when that movie should have come out, and she would have been, had her movie, and, would have been fine.
If they wanted to be brave about it, they would have put her in right after the first Avengers.
Yep, that's when it should have come out.
Yeah,
that would have been a year after that Lucy one.
Absolutely, right. and I think now, mind you, it's a lot of it is scheduling as well, because in between all these fucking films, they're actually doing other films. They're doing indie cinema or smaller roles. So it all depends on when you can schedule people as well. That goes into it. But I agree, they were waiting to see what happened with Wonder Woman. Let's see if a woman can carry a film. Like, well, of course you can. Anybody can carry a film if the writing's good and if the if the production team is on point, and it shouldn't be an issue.
What was the movie that remember she went on Wiggy or whatever, she was promoting a movie and it bombed?
Oh, God.
Shit.
Oh, no, which, are you talking about Scarlett Johansson?
Yeah. There was
Ghost in the Machine.
Ghost in the Machine. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that's
which was really, 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 really bad.
I thought visually I liked it a lot. I thought it looked good. See, I saw it in IMAX, so I thought it looked great. But I had already known the story from the comics and everything anyways, so I didn't hate it. So.
Well, let's see what we got here. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think the wig
factor ruined that movie.
I think you know what? It really is. It is astounding, and this is how we tie this into, quite frankly, everybody. We always have some stern references in one of these shows for sure.
Yeah.
Basically, any interviews going into him, especially where it comes to Marvel or DC, is when something's tracking so poorly. We're throwing this shit against the wall. Let's see if this will do anything for her. And when it never does, it's almost as if, okay, well, what was that one? It wasn't a Marvel film, but it was tracking poorly and got horribly reviewed. It was the Jennifer Lawrence Red Sparrow.
Yeah, right. That was the fake
which
Black
was really
Widow.
like a fake Black Widow, and that bombed more horribly than anything.
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, why? I feel bad for actors and actresses when they have to do this whoring thing when they know the film's a piece of shit. Jeremy Renner went in for, what was that one? Wind River?
Oh, yeah.
He went into the Stern Show to promote that, but not any of the Avengers, not Hawkeye-based anything.
The movie that kind of flew in under the wire that nobody saw was called Anna, and I thought that was okay.
That's the most recent Luc Besson film, isn't it?
Yeah. I thought it was good. It was out of the ordinary, and I thought it was good. It was just the locations it was shot at it was all looked different than anything that was out there, and just the way the story was told, I liked it.
Well, again, not every film is going to be a home run, even for the best directors. Yeah. There's always a Valerian, which I didn't see. Was that any good?
Me neither.
I heard it
never saw it either.
I heard
that's one of those like Ghost in the Machine or Ghost in the Shell or whatever that movie is called. Good. That it's beautiful to look at.
Yeah,
but it was just a dumbass movie.
Yeah, I never got around to seeing it.
Yeah, it looks great. If it actually had a story that matched the beauty of what he put on screen, then it might have actually been the start of a decent franchise, but it was terrible. And casting those two drab-ass people to be the leads, who were supposedly the romantic leads at that, was a bad idea on his part, too.
Dane DeHaan and
that one.
Cara Delevingne.
And the Enchantress from the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
That was a bad idea on his part.
I think, again, some of it's a crapshoot, but there's so much of this that you can avoid just by getting certain. I think casting really is one of the most important things of any film. Sometimes you just never buy people as certain characters or they put in a shitty performance. Well, that's not on the director, I suppose. Maybe it is.
That's why the Marvel movies worked for the most part, because they really went out of their way to get decent actors to play the right roles.
Like, it's not to say Alison Brie was a shitty actress. I just don't think that she was directed properly, or they. I think the writing of the character, they botched that.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what a Captain Marvel sequel is going to look like when it doesn't have the bait and switch of you need to see this in order to know what's going to happen in Endgame, because that's why that movie made so much money. If that was just a Captain Marvel plopped in the middle of July with nothing before it or after telling you desperately need to see it in order to be kept up to date on this $1 billion franchise, I doubt it would have become the success that it was.
People were starved for some.
I was in a theater where a bunch of people got up when that movie ended and went, "What the fuck that have to do with Endgame?"
Well, not only that,
walking
out. Let's not even fuck around for a minute. Let's think about, for example, that so there's the tie-in to Endgame for sure. Let's say, for example, in the future, the next Captain Marvel film has nothing to do with Guardians of the Galaxy or Thor or anything Iron Man related. Iron Man 3 followed a incredibly shitty Iron Man 2, and made it worse. Actually made Iron Man 2 look like Citizen Kane, and still it made shitloads of money.
Well, Iron Man 3 where will be the Avengers though?
I know.
But they tried to play up though that it was telling you what happened to him after because of they tried to tie it to Avengers with his PTSD.
Well, that was ridiculous too.
That he didn't seem to have at the end of Avengers.
Yeah.
Well,
it doesn't even work like that, like how it was in that movie.
So I guess my question is this: are Marvel films now critic proof?
It's going to take one movie to get shit on first before it becomes a case of them going movie by movie and actually judging them on the movie instead of judging them on the machine. Because if you read the reviews for Marvel movies, it's like they rarely talk about the actual film itself. They talk about Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole and how it's all connected and all this stuff. And it's like, no, just tell me about this specific movie starring this specific actor playing this specific character.
Well, Spider-Man Away from Home kind of wrapped everything up. And then this Black Widow's in the past. So what's the first one that's going to come out like fresh?
Eternals.
Eternals.
And most people don't even know who the Eternals are.
No, that's right. I guess so you think that'll be like a litmus test? Like, let's see if we can throw this.
I think that could be the first potential bomb.
I think they're going in with the well-earned ego of we were somehow able to make Guardians of the Galaxy into this monster franchise hit. Yeah. So we can do it with pretty much anything, even the
thing that had going for it was
New Gods.
That had the humor going for it. This isn't going to be a funny movie, though, right?
I have no idea what the tone of this movie is going to be because no one actually talks about the movie. They just talk about casting stuff.
But even in the Guardians of the Galaxy, the comic, it was pretty. There was always humor in it. That's why I don't see that in the Eternals.
Like the only thing that you get talking about the Eternals is that it's going to be romantic because of Cersei and Black Knight, and that it's going to be Marvel's first LGBT kiss on screen. And those are the only two things that anyone ever talks about.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Is that really a big draw? Does anybody care at this point? Does anybody care about gay stuff anymore?
Honestly, if you were someone who was titillated by such a thing, or if it drove you know that the kiss is going to be like how the two dudes on Modern Family peck each other on the lips, like they're an old married couple from a nursing home in Florida or something. So it's not like it's going to be this passionate thing that's going on. It'll probably be like, all right, honey, I'm going off to go fight the bad guy.
It's not going to be Deborah Kerr and what's his name, Burt Lancaster, and From Here to Eternity on the beach.
Yeah,
a huge like macking session.
No one's gonna be spitting into their hand and raw dogging a guy in a tent like.
But don't you think?
Back down, so don't get too excited, people.
There's still, but then there's also the other side. The other side is there's a huge amount of the population that doesn't want to see that with a gun to their head.
Well, this is the thing. I give you guys the key to the kingdom, okay? So, Derek, I'll start with you. Going forward, DC, what should they be doing? Because Joker is a standalone film and made shitloads of money. And I knew it would make shitloads of money based on the performance. It's just the critics critics' wet dream, and yet still some people saw it for what it was. Do you guys think this is a better way to do it? I certainly think they should be going standalone and fuck trying to make their own universe, because if you make the films good enough, they don't. If you make them well enough, you don't need to connect them.
They shouldn't connect them. That you should do it like how comic books used to be, where it was a shared universe, but everybody didn't have to be in everybody's comic book.
Right.
Yeah. So if you got a movie where, say, you're doing the sequel to Shazam and you want to have, I don't know, Hawkman in it, then have Hawkman in it.
Mm-hmm.
If the story's good and that's what you want to do. But I don't need to have every movie become a Justice League or the Brave and the Bold, with Batman teaming up with every character that exists. Just make your movie.
I don't even need to see all the Marvel movies linked like that anymore. I think it's at this point just do them individually.
Well, that's all that thing's been since I think Civil War, I guess.
But they accomplished they accomplished what they wanted to do. So now you don't really need to have like a link at the end of every movie just for the sake of. I mean, I don't know if there's like a big overall picture like that they have planned for like some kind of big superhero out and out endgame kind of thing again, you know?
Yeah, like a big gang bang.
That they're trying to lead to maybe. Remember the story in the Avengers where the siege on Avengers Mansion?
Yes.
Where the Masters of Evil took everything over.
Great. Yeah.
So they're trying to build to this big thing where there's a Masters of Evil, which means at some point they're going to have to start making villains that don't suck.
Yeah.
And who don't die. So they're going to have to start working on that.
I think that's ass backwards, because like you have to, exactly what you've just said. They haven't established enough of a base of good villains to go that way. And then the other thing is, once you do that, like Marvel doing the Endgame thing, it sort of really is creating a clean slate in terms of you now have to come down from the precipice and make stuff that still people want to go see. And yet it's not going to be as big. It's not going to be as over the top. How do you do that? Well, you have to, again, the writing has to be there.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be leaning heavily into the reacquired stuff. Cause the X-Men and FF, cause one of the rumors I saw for the Captain Marvel sequel is having Rogue be the primary villain in the sequel.
Oh, wow.
And which the idea of it works if they do it right. Like you can't just plop Rogue in there. You should be plopping Mystique and Destiny in there too.
Yes,
the three of them,
and the Blob.
Pretty much the whole Brotherhood should be in there to lead up to whatever they're trying to. If they're trying to actually do it to create that connection between Carol and Rogue that they had in the comic book.
I'll pay to see Rogue knock Carol Danvers for a loop.
Oh, totally.
I'll pay for that.
Throw her off the bridge.
I don't even think they need to hot shot the Rogue thing, because Mystique was basically being a headache to Ms. Marvel before she became Captain Marvel. She was a headache to Ms. Marvel for years before that big power draining issue in the the Avengers annual.
Yeah, it was Avengers. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you guys. Well, yeah, that's going forward. I would love to see. And first of all, the Captain Marvel thing. When you have a character that fucking powerful, there's only so much you can do. You just have to start inserting her in the sort of the mystical realm instead. You have to start sending her to the Kree homeworld, or you have to start sending her to to deal with what's that guy? Not Adam Warlock, but you have to have her dealing with definitely Guardians of the Galaxy-esque stuff. Because Earth is just not big enough. It's just not enough for her, in my opinion.
So really that powerful.
And she doesn't have any villains that aren't space-type villains that she can fight that her powers would actually be necessary. She's not Superman. She has no legs.
Well, that's still the other thing that's ridiculous is how they make this the Skrulls into this big sob story. I mean, hopefully they get her out in space and realize that they're bad guys. You know, they're villains. And I don't know. I don't understand what the point of that movie was, where the Skrulls were like this, like the Jews of space or whatever. You're supposed to feel bad for them, you know?
Yeah, I didn't get that either. You basically have one of the best villains that you could have to do that. They could have been setting up the Secret Wars storyline.
The Skrulls,
that could have been their long-term plan instead of the whole. But they can't do that now.
Well, unless they have them infiltrate. Well, I don't know. In the end of that Spider-Man, there was Skrulls that was screwing around, like with Nick Fury, right?
But they were good
Far From Home,
weren't they? They were helping out.
No, at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, remember, like it was like Nick Fury. It turned out that he was a Skrull at the end of it.
But it was the Skrull guy from the Captain Marvel movie. It was the same guy playing him. Him and his wife.
But what are they doing? What are they screwing around with, you know?
They were trying to assist Spider-Man or something. They weren't doing bad stuff. I
don't know. I thought it came off as kind of weaselly like.
No, in my opinion, going forward, if I'm not DC, but if I'm on Marvel side, I definitely want to get into the more R-rated stuff. I want to get Blade back, reinvent Blade. Yeah. I want to get Mephisto. I want to get the Nether. I want Daemon Hellstorm. I want all the sort of darker characters, Agatha Harkness. I want Dracula. I really do want Marvel to start including some of these things that also the mystical stuff, the in-betweener. I want I want the Living Tribunal. I want all these. I want Eternity out there, for fuck's sake. Silver Surfer. Bring the Silver Surfer. Do him properly, please.
Well, do a real Silver Surfer movie.
Dr. Doom. Fuck, we've been crying for this for years.
Yeah, I know.
You know, so much weight. Now, yeah, go ahead.
No, definitely a Dr. Doom movie, just Dr. Doom. You don't have to have anybody else. You could have him as like an anti-hero or something, and, you know, and make it really weird.
Yeah.
No Fantastic Four, just Dr. Doom, you know.
I'm thinking they're going to probably do one of the same thing they did with in the Ant-Man and Wasp movie, where the original Wasp was lost in the quantum universe. They're going to try to pull one of those type of things with the Fantastic Four.
Maybe.
But like they started out a long time ago as a superhero team who everybody just forgot because they disappeared after their first mission or some shit like that.
That would be a hell of an ask. I don't know if
they come
there's
back.
no reference in them. Once we got you'll say in the film, once we got the rights, we were able to bring you out of the quantum zone. Annihilus signed the contract, and you know we're all good to go. Franklin Richards just might, you know.
They could have Doctor Strange find the Fantastic Four and bring them out or something.
I'm just so pissed that they pooched Power Man and Iron Fist, and we cannot have a fucking movie, a standalone film with Luke Cage.
We might, because it seems like they're about to just shit can everything that was done on those Netflix shows like they never have.
That's the thing that sucked, because Runaways never sucked. Like, Runaways was good. I liked it from the beginning to end, and it's like they could still keep it going, but that's the end of that.
They're going to act like that shit never happened either.
Yeah, it sucks because they did it well. That show was done well.
In my opinion, even though it doesn't flow with the universe they have created, I would go totally the original X-Men and start them off, or do like a New Mutants thing, and go with that going forward. Just go with the original New Mutants and
but they're coming out with that shitty movie's coming out.
I pray 3rd. To God. I hope not. That horror. It looks like a horror film.
Yeah, they're releasing it April 3rd.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus H. Christ.
I know someone that's really excited for it, but she liked that Demon Bear storyline, which I hated the artwork. I hated it.
His artwork for that was great.
I love that
I hated
one.
it. I love the artwork.
It was perfect.
I
if you're
know,
not a fan of his artwork, there's no, you can't get past the story, I guess.
You either love it or you hate it.
No, I didn't mind it when he did Elektra, but for New Mutants was always like a lighthearted kind of X-Men Junior kind of thing, and then they turned it into this really dark, scribbly looking, and it didn't make sense, Yeah, I hated the whole time he drew for that book. Hated. I don't even know why I kept reading it. It was a drudgery, and I hated Legion because you couldn't even see anything, That whole time period was just bad. I liked it, and then I started liking it again when they brought in Cable and just made it, near the end.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I started. I'm glad I stuck through it till then because it did get better. But that whole time period, I hated it because the stuff I liked before with the Hellions and all that kind of stuff I thought was great, and it was always just a lighthearted comic. And then they turned it into a bunch of kids doing all this really dark shit, and I don't know. I just hated it.
Well, I'm one of the people who are optimistic and want to actually see it because if they can get even
New Mutants,
even 50% of that story right, it should be awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. Me, I'm not big on magic. I don't like magic and in comics, and I don't know. I guess I'm more of a sci-fi guy, but yeah, that's what bothers me about this movie because it's just like. If you're going to introduce New Mutants, like they're going to introduce them as this dark bunch of whiny goth kids or whatever or something instead of just a bunch of kids.
This is a weird way to introduce those characters.
Yeah, right.
But it's not going to matter because they're basically just putting it out to get it out there, and then Marvel will introduce the New Mutants down the line as some happy, wisecracking Buffy the Vampire Slayer sounded.
Well, that's what I want. That's what I want.
Okay,
that's
here's an issue. Okay, reshoots. Okay, they're talking about all the delays because of the handover, right? In August 2019, Disney was said to be unimpressed with the New Mutants, believing it had limited box office potential. At the end of the month, this was reported to be the studio's impression of the original cut of the film. Further work had been completed on the film since Disney acquired it to align the film with Boone's original vision. That's the director. And test screenings with these changes had been positive. In addition to making the film more frightening, these changes included removing connections to the X-Men films. This was reportedly to give Disney's Marvel Studios the option to retroactively include the film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Sienkiewicz confirmed in December that work on the film had been taking place, and based on a new trailer he had seen, the style of Marvel Studios appeared to have had an impact on the tone of the film. At the end of the month, Boone said the latest version of the film followed his original vision, a comment that was interpreted by some to mean no reshoots had taken place. In January 2020, Disney's original official fan club website, D23, described the film as a new addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a claim that was quickly picked up by fans and reporters. Soon after the claim was noticed, all mentions of the film were removed from the website. Disney later confirmed that this was an error and the film would not be part of the MCU. So this is, I think we're looking at a real piece of shit.
I'm shocked they're releasing it in theaters. I thought they were going to just put it on Hulu and call it a day.
Yeah, they should just do that. And remember that really bad Captain America film that just kind of never came out? It should just be sent off into that kind of distributing.
Well, it said here, the director said he had been influenced by A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors and confirmed that the film is set in the modern day. I mean, if you did it straight, if you did the New Mutants straight, it would be, I think, a huge hit. Same with Power Pack. Power Pack, I maintain, would be a massive, mondo fucking hit.
Yeah, yep.
And so New Mutants and that, and then if you got Fantastic Four properly with Doctor Doom, you've got your new fucking universe. And you could add, you could make the Defenders into something. You could bring in Gargoyle. You could bring in the Valkyrie. You could make the Valkyrie do something else instead, But anyway,
you have a different Valkyrie.
Yeah, I suppose if you wanted. I mean, Jesus, how many Spider-Mans have we had? So fuck it. What's the difference? So, did you guys want to talk a little bit about The Mandalorian? Because our last podcast, I had to cut that out, unfortunately, just because it was too hard to edit.
And Mandalorian and also Picard. Derek, did you see Picard?
Yeah, I'm up to date on Picard.
What do you think?
I like the show, but somehow those motherfuckers managed to hire nothing but people who I do not like to be the crew of Picard's new spaceship. Every actor, the dude who's the captain, don't like him, didn't like him on Heroes or the Three Musketeers or anything else he's been in. That Raffi woman, I'm sitting there like, why is she there? Why? If they were going to give Picard this person who he was supposed to know, who he kind of ruined their life when he did his big do what I want with the Romulans or I quit thing, then get somebody who we know. I was like, Ro Laren would have been perfectly fine. Michelle Forbes is out there not doing anything right now.
No, I remember, I think at the end she ended up betraying like the whole everything, and she's like kind of like a somewhat villain at the end. She's not part of anything. Remember, she kind of backstabbed him.
They were going to do she was supposed to be the Kira person.
Yeah, right.
In DS9, but then Michelle Forbes was like, I don't want to sign a contract for you guys.
Yeah. And that's why they turned her into a bad guy.
It's been like 15, 20, however many years since she was seen. All that's water under the bridge. Give me somebody I know.
Well, that the character that Raffi, like, did you read the Countdown comic? Like, they show her in the comic. Like, she like how she was in the comic. She was like his new first officer. So we just didn't get to see that stuff, whatever. And I'm
not a fan of that actress either.
I think what he's doing, except for there's that goofy doctor or whatever that's like kind of Pollyanna, but the rest of them, I think they just wanted to do something that's not like a normal Starfleet crew, then they're still building it up. So I don't know if there's more characters or if 7 and 9 stays around. Or
the Samurai Romulan kid I like.
Yeah. That
7 of 9 coming aboard is good.
Is she aboard, or is it just a one-off?
I think she's there for the whole season.
Oh, okay.
So you guys, without hesitation, would recommend Picard?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Picard's good.
Yeah.
Some people, if you're one of those purists, the freaking Federation is all good, money doesn't exist, there is no strife in the universe type people, then you're going to be bitching about it from now until the day you die.
Mm-hmm.
But I've decided fuck those people because they whined about DS9 a million years ago too. So,
but then there's always the other side of the Federation that there was always like there's always been admirals that sucked, and this is nothing new.
Yeah,
I think it's more human. It's more human than this the ideal that some people have of Starfleet. It was never perfect.
You would not know that from the way some people act. Like, this is not Roddenberry's Star Trek. I'm like, well, Roddenberry's dead. How's about that?
But not even that.
Fuck what he wants.
And let's be honest. Roddenberry was sort of taking if Roddenberry had his way, the whole thing would have gone down the tubes. It was really who's that fella that took over the helm? Harv Bennett. Who was the one that took over the helm for Wrath of Khan? It's gonna. It'll come back to me, but either way, he righted the ship. He said, look, it's got to be more action. There's got to be a good balance here. It's just too fucking, basically, if Roddenberry's hand was he was too close to it, basically. He could not be objective anymore.
But the Star Trek fans that think it's this utopia, Starfleet's this utopia thing, it never was. There was always somebody that, episode for episode, there was an admiral that was, had a screw loose, so there was somebody that was trying to take data away from them. There was somebody that was plotting against like a racist or something like that. There was never. It was always, and then even in the Kirk times, there was like people, that didn't want to help the Klingons when Kronos had the explosion.
Mm-hmm.
And remember there was like people like they were saying let them die. Like even Kirk wanted to let them die. So it's this is nothing new.
People have a weird revisionist history.
I know
what Star Trek is supposed to be.
I've actually just downloaded, obtained the first few episodes, so I'm going to give it a look-see for sure, because I love Patrick Stewart. I've always admired his work over the years, and it's getting Godhead reviews. People are saying it's excellent. So that doesn't happen very often with this stuff, where almost everybody's in, except for the odd denizen troll that really thinks it's shit because it just wasn't exactly what they wanted.
Well, there's the Star Trek fans that are like the Star Wars fans that are like, oh, you ruined my childhood or whatever. But
right.
Things move on. They're the same ones that they're the same ones that didn't like Deep Space Nine, and Deep Space Nine is my favorite out of all of them.
Really?
Yeah. Deep Space Nine.
It was the first time that they actually dirtied up Star Trek.
Yes.
To the point that I needed it dirtied up.
Yeah.
You know, with a CIA type of an agency working within the Starfleet.
Section 31 is going to be a show. They're going to have a show for that that's coming out. They're filming it now. With Michelle Yeoh's going to be on that.
Yeah, I love her character.
Yeah.
And it's back where it's supposed to be. Star Trek is supposed to be TV. I don't need a Star. I honestly never needed a Star Trek movie. Like I love most of them, but I really didn't need that. Star Trek should be on my television.
Well, let's go with that then. So everybody check that out. And what about The Mandalorian, guys? Definitely worth it.
Yeah. I watched it begin again. I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Star Wars.
The Western.
It's Star Wars. Yeah, and it's Star Wars for grown-ups. There's the cutesy Baby Yoda that I'm sure everybody knows about by now, but that's it. That's the only cute thing in it. The rest of it's
as cute as Baby Yoda is, he's a bloodthirsty little bastard. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, right. And that's what keeps it interesting. It's like you see them. I mean, it just it's the Star Wars we want to see. It's not like any of this just ridiculous stuff. I mean, the stuff that happens in it's fine. You're not gonna. It's not. It's what we wanted for the. Other than, I mean, the thing that mostly everybody wants, and I say it all the time, is people just want to see a movie with Darth Vader hunting down Jedis and killing them. And that's what people want to see. And this is probably as close as we're going to get to that.
If you had your way, it would be like Terminator 2, Well, again, it's different strokes for different posts, for different folks. I'm not a purist in the sense of, I didn't, when you go back to, you just mentioned about Deep Space Nine, for example, talking about Star Trek, I didn't like Deep Space Nine at all. Like I should say, I was 50-50 with it. Sometimes I liked it. I hated the insistence of like crowbarring those Cardassians in it. And I got fed up with them because I realized they needed to go beyond Klingons and Romulans. I understand that. And the Ferengi really fucking annoyed me to no end as a race. I'm sorry, I'm racist. I did realize at the same time, even though it wasn't my cup of tea, I realized they had to start creating new, not timelines, but new avenues which they could go down, because otherwise you're going to get stuck in a rut.
Well, with Deep Space Nine, it took like 2 years to set everything up, and then after that, it was like stuff that they mentioned just in passing was tied into stuff that was a really big deal later. Mm-hmm. Like when there's like a one-off episode where Quark talks about trading with the founders, and we don't know anything about that, and then the stuff with Dr. Bashir, we did, like, you find out later on, you're like, oh, this guy is like the most boring Star Trek character going, but then you find out later that he's a genetically manipulated guy or whatever. So that's why that's why he was good at dots and tennis and all that stuff, and that's why he threw a game because he wasn't playing fair on a level playing field, and he was actually a decent guy, That's what I liked about it, and then everything tied together. Everybody was a misfit on that show, even to the point where when Worf came on the show, it made it even better.
And those earlier maligned seasons, if you go back and look at them, you can see as they're like laying little seeds for things that actually matter later on.
So well written. It was so well written, and Sisko's my favorite captain, always will be. I think he's the most realistic.
And I think that Worf was 1,000 times better on DS9 than he ever was.
Yeah, absolutely.
TNG, he was there to get smacked around.
Yeah.
To let you know that the bad guy was really bad.
Well, Next Generation was pretty much the Data Picard show, and when Worf was never handled right. And then when they put him on Deep Space Nine, they handled Worf like they really gave him a great storyline. And Worf is one of my favorites, so that's why I'm a big Worf fan.
I'm happy he's getting a paycheck.
Yeah, I wish they'd bring him.
Michael Dorn. Well, a lot of these guys, like Jonathan Frakes, was smart. He went into directing, really, like before his sort of the movies ended, and he actually had a good hand, and that's where a lot of them do go.
I could tell when he directs an episode even before his name comes up on the screen. I can say, oh, this is. I can tell by his camera angles, and he does like a lot of stuff that I really like when he directs.
Go ahead.
I can actually see them doing like when the Picard one's over, because Patrick Stewart's like 85 or something right now. He's not going to be doing 15 seasons of the Picard show. I think it's probably going to go 2 seasons tops. And I could see them going, okay, Picard's out of the way. Hey, let's slap that crab shell on Michael Dorn's forehead, and let's do a Worf. Yeah, like 2-3 seasons of Worf real quick.
I'm fine. I like crossovers. I mean, like the other thing too is with Voyager. Like, I mean, a lot of people like Voyager, but the thing with Voyager is kind of nothing happened. Like, if I was writing Voyager, that ship wouldn't have come back looking anything like when it left. Like, the ship comes flying back to San Francisco, looks exactly like when it left. I would have had like parts of it missing and alien technology like woven into it, and just like I kind of always wanted to be like the old Battlestar Galactica, where the ship was falling apart and you barely knew if you're going to make it to the next day. That's what would have been better for Voyager.
That always annoyed me about that show, because the premise of it was supposed to be based on what the premise was. They're lost. Yeah. They have no support from the Federation. Half the crew are a bunch of terrorists. Yeah. Yet it took them 2 episodes before everybody's in their clean Starfleet uniforms. They're having holodeck episodes. Like, how the fuck are you guys having holodeck episodes? Wasting all this energy so a guy can go play fucking squash with some famous British person from the 1920s or something.
They had enough energy for holodeck stuff, but then they couldn't replicate enough food, so they had to add Neelix growing shit.
Yeah, that shit made no sense. And them just falling under Janeway's command. That should have been the darkest Star Trek show ever, because she should have been fighting mutinies. There should have been Chakotay should have been constantly plotting to take that ship from her, even while he was working with her. It should have been like how Battlestar Galactica was, where the people worked together, but there were factions of folks who were always doing things that were for their own good to usurp power from Adama. But there it was just, aye, Captain. Everything's happy.
Yeah, they just they had so much potential. Anything could have happened on that show, and kind of nothing did. They got rid of Kess and brought in 7 of 9 because it was that like for damage control, and they brought in the Borg for damage control because that Borg's always a moneymaker.
They brought 7 of 9 in for titties.
Yeah,
that was pretty much it. It's like we got this flat-chested young girl with the bowl cut, or we can have this insanely hot woman who we're going to put in a cat suit.
Well, they got a girl that not only was she a flat-chested girl with a bowl cut, she had a guy voice. She had a voice like a guy.
Guys,
she had a husky voice.
I'm gonna insist we all put ourselves through this and do a hate listen, a hate watching of this, because I didn't even realize it's going to be this soon. Opening day, March 13th, 2020, Bloodshot with Vin Diesel.
Oh, yeah. Did you guys read? Did you read Bloodshot?
He's not Bloodshot.
I did for a first while. First while.
He's not Bloodshot.
No.
How easy is this to just change it to Bloodshit? And
well, I'm going to go see it. Like,
I totally will go see. I totally will go see this. And
I'm expecting awfulness out of it.
It's only going to be PG-13, so already it's going to be horrendously awful.
Like Bloodshot, the comic Bloodshot came out the same day as Death of Superman.
Yes.
So I remember telling a guy I work with, I said, okay, Death of Superman's going to they're printing 1 million issues of it. I said, the comic to watch this week is Bloodshot. And I said, it's coming out, and Valiant was huge then. I said, this is going to be the thing. So this guy bought a couple of issues, and then I told him, I said, they're going to make a Bloodshot movie. So, and he says, I still got these comics. And then when I saw what it was, I'm like, that's not Bloodshot. I was like,
It's awful. I promise this to be one of the worst films ever. I'm certain of it. And Vin Diesel, I'm sure he's got more money than God. He doesn't really need to care.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's going to be a fun savagery that we have watching, like reviewing this film.
I'm expecting.
Well, he's got another Fast and Furious.
It's directed by a guy who's never directed a movie before. That's all I needed to know about how bad this movie was going to be.
I need to go back and read the Bloodshot comic because I don't know if I don't remember the story at this point for Bloodshot, but I remember I liked it, but I liked all those Valiant titles, but yeah, do you guys remember what the point of it was?
What, Bloodshot? Well, essentially he was I seem to recall he was a mafia guy, and I seem to recall he was a mafia guy and gets killed and is somehow chosen as a cadaver or something to reanimate him or something as this character. I can't recall exactly, but I seem to recall that's the initial, like he's got mafia ties or something. But Vin Diesel, who has the acting ability of dead sperm, and the charisma, I don't know. Someone thinks he's a movie star. Obviously I'm in the wrong.
Well, those Fast and Furious movies, people keep coming back. Did you guys see the trailer for the new Fast and Furious?
No, but need someone to stop them from this nonsense where they keep trying to make it look like falling on a car is better than just falling on the ground. Because people get knocked off of things at heights unbelievable, and they're flying in the air and they're about to hit the ground, and somehow you driving a Mustang under them is a better thing for them to land on than maybe a patch of grass.
Did you see?
I don't get it. It's so fucking stupid.
The thing I was laughing at is they show him a Spider-Man car that's shooting ropes.
He shot webbing.
Yeah, it looks like a Spider-Man
caverns.
And I was like, no, and I said, no, this is getting. I said, okay, just put them in space. Just put them in space and go for broke. Okay, go for broke. Put them in space and end it. Because now it's getting way out of hand. Like last one, they were fighting. Was there something with a nuclear sub and saving the world? And now they've got the Spider-Man jeeps or whatever, and it's now it's way too over the top.
Yeah, it's now they're approaching the Moonraker James Bond portion of just inability to sustain some kind of believability. So
Moonraker was more believable than that.
Well, with the single greatest movie James Bond broad name, Holly Goodhead, in history. I mean, there's just nothing better than that. That's just classic.
That was her name in the book, though.
Yes, in the original Ian Fleming book, I believe. So you're right, actually.
Yeah.
So is there any closing comments, guys? Anything you want to? Because we wrap this up, because we do have to do a little bit of editing here.
I don't think there's anything else coming out, right?
No. Bloodshot.
Morbius and Venom come out this year.
Oh, but there's a God, please no.
Actually, I didn't mind Venom. I didn't mind it. I thought it was
the sequel comes out in October, and the Morbius movie comes out in July.
Here's art imitating life. There's a film with Ben Affleck coming out sometime, I think, in March. The Way Back. It's a Ben Affleck film where he plays a former high school basketball phenomenon, is offered a coaching job at his alma mater, but he's struggling with alcoholism. So as the team starts to win, he may have a reason to confront his old demons, but will it be enough to set him on the road to redemption? So Ben Affleck, an alcoholic, is playing an alcoholic, and
so is that that's like Welcome Back, Drunk Carter.
Yeah, the White Shadow.
Should a guy in recovery be playing an alcoholic in a movie? That's kind of bad for your recovery.
Tempting. Wasn't it like, I think it's perfect casting. What about Courtney Love as a heroin addict in People versus Larry Flint?
She got an Oscar for that. She was a very convincing heroin addict.
Oscar nomination.
Oscar nomination.
Yeah, I don't think they would sully the Academy with her heroin encrusted nails. But anyway, I would like to let everybody know. Thank you for listening. This is, as we said before, ancillary content to Quite Frankly. We're going to be putting these out on the same feed for Podbean. And I'll be making a separate channel on YouTube for anybody who wants to comment and call us fags. Please do. We welcome any. That's fine. That's what we're there for. And if you don't like it, well, that's your tough shit as well, because we're still doing them anyway.
We used to have the old disclaimer: we don't know what we're talking about.
Yes, we still even though we're elsewhere, we still don't know what we're talking about. It's all for shits and giggles. So, I've been Fillmore, and I'd like to thank Derek and Wayne for coming along for the ride, and hopefully we'll get the full ensemble for the next one, which, if it isn't Bloodshot, most definitely will be for the Black Widow movie. And if in between we decide to do another hate cast or something, we'll let you all know. Take care, everybody.